in part 2 of our series on the manifestation process, ideas that are put forth in Thomas Trord's book, the Hindenburg Lectures, which is a book I would recommend reading, or an author actually I would recommend reading at some point if you haven't delved into Trord yet. He's one of the early pioneers of the, we would call it science of mind, not the formal movement, but the idea of how our thoughts, how our attitudes, how our consciousness relates to our external world, that there's a science involved in this. And actually the whole movement, a lot of people in the early movement, Fillmore's included, used to refer to themselves as Christian scientists, and they were forced to stop using that term by Mary Baker Eddy. But the idea that is portrayed here is that we're dealing with law. We're not dealing with just faith, although faith is very important, but these early people, and we've followed this tradition, have seen that we approach the whole spiritual thing as a matter of law, that our thoughts initiate a quality of life, that there's a definite connection between the way we think, the way we see ourselves, our worldview, and the way we express on this planet. And if we want to get a handle on this thing, then we start looking at this more as a science. We don't have to beg and beseech a capricious God to change something in our lives. We're working with law. And that's a helpful thing to many of us, because some of our religious training can kind of be a barrier. Some of our attitudes toward God and our thoughts about God's attitude toward us, mainly. That perhaps we feel like we have not lived up to the best of our ability, and so we have to kind of overcome God's reluctance, as somebody said. A couple of years ago, several years ago, you remember when The Secret came out, the video The Secret. And one of the things that they sold that whole program on, and I actually wrote a pretty good review on that program for Amazon. There were things about it I really liked and things about it I didn't. One of the things I didn't like about it is that it is presented almost as magic, like you rub this magic genie and ask whatever you want, this magic lamp and whatever you want, this genie comes out and fulfills your wishes. But another thing I had trouble with was the way it was sold in the first place. The idea that there's a secret, we're imparting a secret that's been withheld from humankind. And the idea was that the ruling class had this very important knowledge, this very important information that they were keeping from the lower classes, just out of control. That if the average person understood the wealth that was at their fingertips, or at the tip of the mind, I guess you'd say, that it would kind of upset the natural order of things. So she presented this as, here's a secret revealed, and we all love this kind of thing, of course. But what I said in the review is it's no secret. This has never been a secret. What we are involved in here is we're all involved in a manifestation process. From the day we stepped on this planet, we started influencing our circumstances. And we probably did that initially through crying, getting people to do what we wanted them to do. We started crying. So, and from that time on, we have built we've influenced this thing we call our life. It's a manifestation process. We have always been involved in it. It's not something you start. It's not something you can stop. It's something that's taking place all the time. And the idea that our mind is connected, our self-image, our self-perception is connected to how we express, that has never been a secret. It's been taught through the ages by the mystics of the world and by some religious teachers and all, not those that are involved in orthodoxy. But it has not been a secret that's been hidden from us intentionally. It's that just most people don't want to take control of their thought. Most people don't want to take control of what's going on in the chatter in their mind. It's a real challenge to do that. To say my life is not the result of what everybody else is doing, but it's the result of something I'm doing. There are certain people that want to hear that, but a great many do not. They would rather be told that you are experiencing this horrible life because you're a victim of childhood abuse, or a victim of alcoholism, or a victim of all kinds of things that you can be a victim of. But so it's a responsibility that not a lot of people want to take. But when you present it in a video that's all dressed up and sugar-coated and has a lot of good special effects and all of the things that go along, we become interested again. But when you really look at what a program like The Secret is saying, it does not exonerate you from taking responsibility. In fact, it puts the responsibility right on you. Where it does err, I believe, as I said, is this idea that we have this magic lamp, and if we rub it, this genie pops up, and it's just that simple. Your life becomes, you ask whatever you want, and your life becomes exactly what you want. So you can try that, and probably all of us, watch The Secret over and over, just because it was so appealing. But when that wears off, you're still left with you, involved in the manifestation process. So you get to the end of that exciting period, and you find you're still here. Wherever you go, you show up, kind of thing. So there's no magic. And we also like this idea that there's some authority maybe that's keeping The Secret from us. I was watching an interview with a woman who was talking about her childhood and her the religious experience she had. She grew up Catholic, and she started asking questions as a teenager, and one of the questions was, why do you have to be a Christian to go to heaven? And she asked the nun that was one of her instructors, and the nun just tried to silence her. You just have to accept in faith that it's true. Well, the woman said that as a girl I didn't accept that, and so the nun booted it up a notch and called in the priest. And the priest tried to answer the question. He had all kinds of answers, I guess, that didn't satisfy her, that certain people would go to heaven, certain people would go to hell, and you had to be a Christian if there was any hope at all for you to do that. So the answer that he gave was not satisfying, and the reason they act like they're hiding something is because they don't know. They don't have an answer. The theology that is taught so often in the traditional vein is not an answer. It's a prolonging of our taking responsibility for our life. It's saying, you take responsibility for my life. I'm going to join this church. You take responsibility for my life. As long as I'm in it, as long as I profess certain things, that I believe certain things, then I'm on the bandwagon. I'll get in. And when I die, I'll go to heaven because I will profess, my Christian faith and all of whatever it is we think we have to do. But they don't withhold answers. They just don't have answers. And that's going to be true in every aspect of your life, every place you look. You pick up a book that is very inspiring to you, and you'll find, it triggers a lot of good things in you. And if you could have a sit-down conversation with that author, and maybe you have done this, you'll find that they're human beings. Emerson talked about this. He went to Europe to meet all of his idols. I think there were three famous people he wanted to meet. And he found out that they were just people, that they didn't have anything he wanted or needed when he got to know them, that their works were beautiful and they were inspiring. But when it comes down to it, we're the interface with our life. We're involved in the manifestation process, and we can be inspired, but it comes down to us taking up our cross, as Jesus said, and following him in this process, not following him per se, but actually doing the work of taking responsibility for our consciousness. And that's what this is about. That's what this whole series is about. So we're in part 2, calm expectation, and let's see what that says. He says, know that you are working with law. The first step, of course, was to form an image, form a picture of that which you would like to experience. You're involved in your life right now. It's not going so well for you. There's some area that you want to fix, you want to change. So what do you want? Rather than going over and over what you don't want, what we want to do is come up with a vision of what we do want, a life we do want. And as I said last week, don't just jot down a few things. Take time to create this vision. Take time to articulate it in a way that is meaningful to you. And it's not necessarily that you have to address everything you don't like about your life, but how you want to feel, the freedom that you want to experience. We can put that into words. We can put that into a vision. And so this is a very important process, is to start with a vision. Once we have this vision, once we have this written down or put in pictures, however we want to do it, we know that we're working with law. We have a seed planted, and that seed is the vision that we hold of our lives, how we want things to unfold. With calm expectation of a corresponding result, you know that all necessary conditions will come about in proper order. And this is a very important idea, because it is not only a planting of a seed, it's a letting go and trusting the growing process. It's faith. That's what I said in the opening image, is faith is really the peace of calm expectation. We say, as the writer of Hebrews said, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And I love that definition. But if you think of faith as the peace of calm expectation, that's actually an action. It's a letting go. Faith is the peace of calm expectation. So you have this vision, and you go through your life with the calm expectation, knowing that you're working with law. You're holding this vision, the seed. But it's important to remember that this is how you have created the life you have now. So you're not having to do anything new, not having to learn anything new or learn anything different. This is a matter of being mindful, a matter of being aware of how you're using your faculties. So do you envision something and then get right back into the problems of why it's not here? You watch yourself. You have a standard, and that standard is the vision that you hold. So you have something to weigh it against. You have chosen the kind of seed you're going to plant. You drop it in the ground. You know that you're working with the law. When you drop the seed in the ground, you don't do anything more in terms of unfolding that seed, making it grow. But you have an expectation that something is working. You're working with law. And of course, when we drop our seeds in the ground, we don't really think about that. But it's really a pretty miraculous thing when you do think about it. What happens when you drop the seed in the ground? Jesus said it dies. And that, on one level, is a scary thing. So for our new life to be born, something has to die. What is that? It's the old self-perception. So we plant this new vision, with this new idea, and immediately the old self-perception will come up and start interfering, start throwing questions out, start challenging. It's Paul saying, why do I do the things I hate? Haven't you ever asked yourself that question? You know better. Why am I responding in fear when I know fear is my worst enemy? But I'm doing it, so I acknowledge that. I have this standard now that what does that have to do with this seed I just dropped in the ground? You don't drop a seed in the ground and sit there and worry about it. Maybe you do, but it doesn't do any good. There's something that takes over. It's law. It's spiritual law. It's a living thing, and it's really a miraculous thing, but it's so common that we don't really stop and think about it. So we know that we're working with law. We have this vision. There's something, the moment we create a vision, something begins to happen. And we can prove that to ourselves because our life as it is an expression of the vision we've been carrying. Again, nothing new, but new choices, a new understanding. With calm expectation of a corresponding result, corresponding to the vision that we hold, you know that all necessary conditions will come about in proper order. You may make some affirmation, you form your vision, something pops up and it looks like, oh, it's happening. And that thing dries up. Oh, it's not happening. Something else could pop up. Looks like it's happening again, dries up, not happening. It'd be a little bit like planting your garden and something green pops up, you're not quite sure what it is. It doesn't happen to be the thing you planted. So you take it out. It's a weed, something you don't want. But that doesn't discourage you. So this happens all the time. And it happens, I think, frequently with Unity people where we set our course and positive things look like they happen right away. Sometimes the very worst thing that can happen is a potential positive thing because suddenly our faith is no longer in law, it's in that thing. This has got to work out, just like this. But if you keep saying to yourself this or something better, you are working with law. You're working in a way that the law can work through you, I should say. You're giving the latitude that's needed. None of us know how to unfold the seed, but we know how to plant it, and that's our job. So we're working with law with calm expectation of a corresponding result. And again, don't get too excited about things that look like they're the answer to your prayer. The answer to your prayer is the peace that you're seeking. I said that a couple weeks ago. That's the real answer to every prayer that we utter. It's the peace of mind that we think that answer will give us. It's not the thing, though. It's the state of mind, peace. That's what we're after. And you can have that prior to the expression. You know, all necessary conditions will come about in proper order. Okay, that's the faith. That's the knowing, the expectation. I have calm expectation that the best and highest good for all is now unfolding. So this is an attitude that we go through life with, that we go through our daily experience with, that I have a calm expectation that the best and highest good for all is now unfolding. So what happens when something pops up that looks like it could be the answer, but then it turns out not to be? Is that a misleading teaser? No, it's just not part of the solution. It's not part of what you're looking for. But maybe that's the higher good for somebody else. Maybe you don't get that particular thing because it belongs to somebody else. I think it was Wayne Dyer who talked about you're frantically trying to get someplace, in traffic, and you get held up and you get angry and have all this response. Well, maybe if you would have made it through that traffic light, made it through that situation that, 200 yards down the road you would have gotten T-boned by a dump truck. It's very possible. We don't know. So maybe that holdup was actually protecting you from something else. And I don't want to live my life thinking of that all the time, but it is probably true. How many times have you made a choice to go down one path, didn't work out, later on you were glad? You were happy it didn't. You thought that was your highest good, your greatest good. And it looked like it was. And maybe it was at that particular moment. Maybe there was something you needed to learn or wanted to learn, wanted to experience in that moment. So it's not wasted by any means. But sometimes the things that we think we want may not be for our highest good. Maybe it's for the highest good of someone else that it doesn't work out. So we keep our thoughts grounded in that idea. The idea of working with spiritual law rather than dealing with God's personality simplifies things. And again, that goes back to our religious training. Do any of you in here think you might have offended God at some time, made God mad, and maybe changed the outcome of some prayer that you prayed? Oh, surely none of you have done that, but I did it once. And we have this human view of God. We do all these offensive things. We go through our life without really giving much thought to God, and then when we don't know what to do, we pray. And that's kind of a, well, how would you feel if you were a person that, somebody else never paid attention to you except when they wanted money, except when they wanted, an answer of some kind? What would you think about that relationship? So if you have a view of God, I'm not going to think about you, God. I'm not going to read the Bible. I'm not going to go to church. I'm not going to do anything. But when I have a problem, then I ask for help. So wouldn't you kind of walk up very humbly and offer yourself? And that's the whole idea of prostration. Prostrate. Making yourself, a worthless worm of the dust. Why? So God will respond. So that's that anthropomorphic view of God, that human being, that we have to overcome his reluctance. If we're dealing with law, we don't. If you say 2 and 2 is 4, there's nothing you have to overcome. Even if you used to say 2 and 2 is 5, because you're dealing with mathematical law. It's impersonal. It is helpful to approach God in the same way. Not that God is impersonal, because God is the very source of our being. But God does not think like we do. God is not a human being with a personality, other than the one we've given God. Somebody said God created man in his image and after his likeness. We've been trying to return the compliment ever since. So thinking of God as law, thinking that we're dealing with law, helps us get away from that personality issue. The thing that I'm this sinner and I have to overcome God's attitude toward me. And it's not an easy thing to overcome, but it's something to pay attention to if we find ourselves responding in that way, if we find ourselves carrying that thought. The idea of working with spiritual law rather than dealing with God's personality simplifies things. Your desire becomes a cause, and its manifestation is the effect. The vision you hold is a cause, and you hold that vision long enough, you pour your faith into it, you act as if it is true. Whatsoever you ask for in prayer, believe you've received, and it shall be yours. That's law. It's not, I hold this vision, God, is that okay, kind of thing. Would you please grant this to me? We are initiating a cause, and we expect, with calm expectation, a certain effect. So you see how the difference between dealing with personality, dealing with a divine personality, and dealing with law can help us, because we get rid of all that human baggage that we've given to God. And God, by the way, has never accepted it. So have you written down your desire? Have you made it clear how you would like your life to look, what direction you would like your life to go in, how you'd like to feel? person you want to be, whatever it is that you have decided. Have you actually taken the time to do that? I did it long before I started this series this time. I've done it many times throughout my life. But I did it recently because I was feeling frustration. And that's one of the best times to do it, because when you're frustrated, what are you doing? You're looking at what's wrong with your life, not what it can be. And you're responding. That frustration is saying, it's this way and I don't like it. I don't know what to do about it. So what you do about it is you get off that level. You get out of that arena. You get out of the effect and you start a new cause. We've been doing this all along. That effect that we're looking at was once a cause. It's the effect of a cause we've set in motion. So we're in a loop that we can't get out of if we're frustrated looking at our life and criticizing it as it is. We want to start a new cause. We're dealing with the law. I let that go. That's the dawning of the new heaven and the new earth. That's what we're talking about. That's what the Bible was talking about. The end times is the end of that life, the end of that perception, the end of that way of thinking that you've been involved in. It's letting that go. The Armageddon that occurs, this great battle that occurs, is the argument you're going to have with yourself. I don't deserve the better life. I don't deserve, positive things. I'm only getting what I deserve when I look at this life I don't like. So you're going to go through this battle in yourself, and that's why it's good to have something written down, something put on paper, something put in imagery. In my case, I use PowerPoint as a computer-based vision board, and I find it very effective. So it reminds you of where you want to go and what you want to be, how you want to express. We're not running away. We are initiating a new cause. So have you written it down? Have you put it in some form that you can look at? Can you see and feel your desire the instant you think about it? Again, that's one of the helpful things with articulation, is you go there. You go there mentally. You go there emotionally. It gives you a place to go. If not, then go back to step one. Continue clarifying and developing your desire. And if you don't have step one, you can go on the internet, or you can pick up the program back on the table out front, because we're putting all of them out there. Clarity is important because your desire becomes a cause. Your reaction to a negative life is also a cause. That's what we have to remember. We're dealing with law, and it's a law that's not broken. So if we're sending out a negative vibe, we will get a negative effect. If we're sending out a positive vibe, we get a positive effect. And we have to stay with it. Sometimes it's like a bronco. You have to jump on and hang on, because we are so prone to, it's so easy to go with the bad flow, to go with what we don't want. So we turn that around, and we identify, we define. And as I say, this or something better. Keep that thought. Don't lock yourself down into something you think is absolutely right for you, because there could be something better. So clarity is important because your desire becomes a cause. If your cause is blurry, the effects that follow will also be blurred. And that's just law. That makes sense. Each morning as you awaken, picture your desire and give thanks that some aspect of it is working into your life this day. It's kind of an exciting thing that you wake up in the morning and you don't know how some new aspect of your desire is going to make itself known, but you know it is. And you're walking through your life with expectation, a relaxed, peaceful expectation. Don't be concerned if you see no evidence that this is happening. Plant your seed in the ground. Does it come up the next day? No. It takes a while. But you know it's there, and you know it's working with law. Something's happening. And it's an attitude. Hold an expectant attitude while going through your daily life. When you go to bed, make your picture vivid, giving thanks that it unfolds even as you sleep. Living with calm expectation keeps your heart open and joyful. And I pointed out there's several meditations on YouTube that are go along with this whole idea of manifestation. So sometimes what I will do at night is I will listen to one of these with earbuds and just go into this meditative, relaxed state, and then rarely I hear the end of it because I go to sleep, and what a wonderful way to go to sleep. With this idea that you are now manifesting the life that you desire. You're dealing with law. So you go to sleep with calm expectation. The universe doesn't stop working because you go to sleep. It actually works while you sleep. And sometimes it works better. That's why dreams sometimes are important, because our brain is so tied up with appearances. Sometimes we have to have information imparted to us through a dream. The conscious mind has to be set aside and asleep. So the universe is working all the time. That's very important to remember. So, okay, that's step 2. We got 3 more to go, and all of them have something good to offer. All right, thank you for coming out. Hope your summer's going great. Thanks for taking time out to come